Good evening, IWV. This is Ridgecrest Talk, and I'm ClairAnn Herbert. Tonight, we have a local musician, and I thought since we had talked about the USO building about 2 weeks ago, that I would introduce one of our local talents tonight. And tonight, we have Mr. Chuck Bolt.
Hi there.
Good evening, Chuck.
Good evening.
So I was very curious at the very beginning, or how far back did you find the love of music?
Well, I started playing guitar when I was about 11 years old because that's the first chance I could talk someone into buying me a guitar. I wanted to play guitar ever since I was about 5. And before that, there was always music. I mean, I used to stand in front of the folk stereo and conduct the orchestra. I mean, it was just, music has always been what drives me. It's what gets me to do everything. And so there's really no starting point. There's just access to guitars, to equipment, to time, to the ability to play it. You know, it's just kind of.
So how did you get your first instrument, your first guitar?
Begged.
You begged?
Begged my mom and dad. Oh yes, they bought me a $13 Mexicali special. We lived in El Centro, which is down by the Mexican border, and it lasted about 6 months, but it got me started before it fell apart. And the next one I bought myself.
Oh, okay.
I had a paper route, you know, mowed lawns, all that kind of stuff, and bought myself a pretty funky old off-brand thing, and it got me for quite a while until I started working.
You're quite driven.
Yeah, and I remember selling a bicycle one time to buy a bass, and it really made my dad mad. He was really upset, and I said, I'm not going to ride the bike, I'm going to play the bass.
So, did they buy you the bike, and they just sold it to buy?
Yep.
Oh, yes, that's what every parent loves. But hey, you know what? That's independent. I was very independent. I have an independent choice. So with all of this music, who inspired you back then to get into music?
Well, at first it was classical music. I was a big fan of Andres Segovia, the guitarist. Beethoven, especially as a composer for the old guys, Beethoven and Mozart, and Stravinsky for the modern stuff. Just everything. I like most kinds of music. I'm not a big fan of heavy metal, the really loud, really raucous stuff. And I haven't heard that much hip-hop and rap that I like, although I have heard some, but pretty much everything else. Country, western,
poetry,
blues, rock and roll. Yeah, well, you know, rap is not new. There was a guy named Gil Scott-Heron back in the 70s that was doing spoken word stuff, and they just didn't call it rap.
Interesting.
That's kind of a new development. Yeah, I find that things come around. I remember Peter Townsend, who played guitar for The Who, talking about where his influence came from. And apparently he lived over a record store in England. And so anytime he got an idea for some guitar part that he would play, he would go down to the record store and go through the classical music, and he would always find the riff or the melody in there somewhere. So everything just keeps getting turned over. There's really very little innovation except this style, the instruments. You know, the reason we have rock and roll now is because of electricity. You know, Before electricity was all orchestral. You know, as soon as somebody could figure out how to amplify an electric guitar, then of course it changed the world. And you know, of course you think that you're in a static moment now. Well, everything's been invented, but something's going to come along and change everything again. It always does. Although right now I'm seeing a huge resurgence in acoustic music. Things got very techno for a while, very canned, a lot of looping, a lot of sampling, but now, you know, I'm finding acoustic guitar players, piano players coming out of the woodwork everywhere, and so I'm really happy to see that because that's part of what I do.
It is pretty amazing what you can do with just an acoustic, even the different kinds of music and feelings you can get out of it.
Yeah, and there's especially guitar and piano because those are songwriters' instruments, because you can play a chord and you can sing to it, and there aren't too many other instruments you can do that to. I mean, you can't play trumpet and be a singer. Right. It doesn't work too well.
It would be interesting.
Although I know a guy that plays the hurdy-gurdy, and he does a pretty amazing job of it. So.
Cool.
But it's funny, my family is not really that musical. I remember my mom sang to us when we were kids, but my dad, my grandparents, they really didn't even listen to music that much. So I'm not sure.
I was always sung to growing up. I was very
well, that
nice
makes a difference. There's an old song I do that my mom used to sing to me that Linda Ronstadt never covered. In fact, I grew up listening to this when I was going to sleep, 3 and 4 years old, to this Ride Around, this old cowboy song. And then I pick up a Linda Ronstadt album, and it's on there. And I was so jazzed. I go, I know this song, so I had to learn it.
Cool. So did you, with all of that, did you start writing your own music right away, or were you learning other people's songs?
My main interest has always been songwriting. I started out playing classical guitar, so of course that's learning other people's stuff when I was 11. And I did that for about a year and a half, 2 years, and then when I was just about 13, I heard Eric Clapton and Jimi Hendrix. And that was the end of the classical guitar. Then, okay, we're putting that away, we're getting some electrics, we're making some noise. But at that point, that's when I started writing songs. They just started, I think when I was a kid, I mean, we had a piano in the house, and I used to beat on the piano and sing nonsense. You know, I just make things up. So I think I always had that drive.
Now, did that go into school? Did you take music in classes?
I took every music class I could. I grew up in a small town. There wasn't a lot available, but I signed up for every chorus class, every guitar class, every band class. I just wanted to immerse. By the time I was a senior, I was taking one civics class, and everything else was music. And then, of course, when I got out of school, instead of going to college, I decided I wanted to be a rock and roll star. So, and that didn't exactly work out, but of course I'm still working on it.
So did you start a band in high school, or when was the first time you got a band going?
Yeah, it was. It was my freshman year in high school. I had met this guy in the 7th grade, and we had played some guitar. Then I moved away for a year, and when I came back, he wanted to start a band, so we played all through high school. Me and him, and Paul, who you met, was the drummer of that band.
Right, okay.
I've been playing with him since high school. So
it's nice because you guys all have really close chemistry, so you've been working together for so long.
Yeah, one of the bands I play with, the Antique Zephyrs, the bass player and I grew up together. His dad and my dad were best friends, so we've known each other since birth. And all the rest of them I had met by the time I was 20 years old. And I'm 58 now, and we're still doing it. And of course, ClairAnn here sings in the other band I play with, the Whatevers, here in town.
No.
I gotta get my plug in.
Yes, it's absolutely fun. It's so fun. So, with what? Oh, you know what? Actually, we're going to get ready to go to a commercial break.
Okay.
But really quick, is music been your life? I mean, have you pretty much?
It was for the longest time. I did a lot of jobs to support it, and then when I was about 35, I gave it up. I just gave it up completely and started driving a truck. And I did that for a long time, 17 years.
You could take the guitar
like
with you.
I always had it with me, but I wasn't playing anywhere. You know, when you're on the road all the time. I still played with the Zephyrs every couple of months. I'd come back and jam, but I wasn't really playing until I was forced to quit driving, and that's another long story.
Yes, well, hold that thought.
I will.
We might get onto that. Be sure to come back after this break, and we have a special treat for you, and we will be right back after this. So, yeah, we're going to... Back to Ridgecrest Talk. I'm ClairAnn Herbert, and tonight our special guest is Chuck Bolt, and we've been talking about his love of music, and we have a very special treat for everybody tonight. But first, I wanted to ask about the songs that you've written. Do you know off the top of your head how many songs have you written?
I have somewhere around 75 or 80 that are finished, and that's not really a lot of output because that's over 40 years. If I write 2 or 3 songs, I remember a year, I'm doing good. And then I probably have another 70 or 80 that I'm always working on. There's always a rolling bunch of things that are going through my head, and some of these things I've been working on since high school and haven't finished. And I'll pick guitar up and I'll play the chords and I'll sing, and I haven't got it today. And then
you pick it up and you can kind of look at it and get the feelings and
yeah, and
maybe
it's kind of
convert it
weird
into what's happening
where songs
now.
come from, because there is a craft to writing songs, but the ones that I write that I like the best are the ones that just happen.
Right.
It's almost like they come from somewhere else. And so to me, part of the thing is just to open yourself up. You've got the guitar in your hand, you've got a voice, you've got chords, see what happens. And when I do that, they seem to come out better. The things that I work on the hardest, I don't seem to like as much.
Right, yeah, no, I understand that. It's a lot easier when life isn't getting in the way and you can kind of open up and...
Well, one of the hard things about being a musician is that life always gets in the way. And I'm sure you're finding that out now that you've been practicing with the band, because after a while, then your friends and your family start going, well, why are you spending all your time doing this? You know, especially if, you know, like me, I don't play out that much. I mean, do open mics. We do 3 or 4 gigs a year probably, but not more than that. But I'm still just as committed to it as if I was, you know, a touring rock star. I still play hours every day. I'm always writing songs. I'm always thinking of how to make the next gig sound better.
Right.
And, you know, all my life, people are like, well, you know, you're too focused. You know, you're not living your life. You're not doing all the other things you can do, and I don't really want to do a whole lot else.
Yes, I think probably one of my biggest challenges is when I do feel that inspiration, and sometimes I can get out and start writing, or I hear something, and all of a sudden I hear, "Mommy, Mommy, Mommy." It's like, so that's, you know, yeah, for...
That may have something to do with why I've never had kids.
And why you have 80 plus songs going on.
Right. Well, those are my children.
Right. Well,
I like to say I have other people's kids.
I like the way you put that, actually. It really, truly is. So would you mind, do you have a song for us? I know.
I'm chomping at the bit. This is a fairly quiet one, and this is new.
Have I heard this one?
I think you've heard it.
Oh.
I went to a party out in the desert with a bunch of kids. I was easily the oldest guy there. It was almost like a mini rave. And I spent all night, and the next morning I wrote 3 songs, and this was one of them. To the place I am tonight, or why I found my inspiration here, gazing up into the blackness shining bright, all my indecision disappears. The world outside is cold, the hatred and the pain, peaceful dreams that never got to grow. I am so saddened by what passes for humanity. We've got such a long, long ways to go. If this night is all a dream, I never want to wake, and I want nothing but your smile. But you're always a million miles away from me, and it's always so far coming home. Maybe someday in some parallel dimension, baby, oh, that love can find a way, and we can stay. And I always wonder about you thinking yourself gone, not wanting to be anywhere at all. I've only seen the dreams that have gone by, and it helped to keep you from that final fall. I always want to see you dancing in the night, shining bright for every heart to see. But you're always a million miles away from me, and it's always so far coming home. Maybe someday in some parallel dimension, baby, oh, that light can find its way, and you will stay. Whatever happens, love finds me here, like I always have, and swear I won't again. I don't regret love calling, I can find the flame, but there are words I will never say to you. You're always a million miles away from me, and it's always so far coming home. Maybe someday in some parallel dimension, baby, oh, our love comes burning, shines right through.
Wow. It's always such a pleasure. That was very beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I love doing it.
What a treat.
It's one thing I don't have is stage fright.
Yes, that helps.
I love doing it so much. I'm a ham-bone.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I really appreciate that.
Anytime.
And you do open mic nights. We're going to get ready to go to a commercial real quick, but I just want to make that clear.
Every 2 weeks,
knows.
anybody that's not coming out to see the open mics, there's a lot of really great talent in this town, and it's very special. Since I'm a truck driver, I've played it.
Could you play something on the way to commercial? Would you mind picking it back up and playing something to bring us into
Sure.
our break? Hello, and thank you, and welcome back. I'm ClairAnn Herbert. This is Ridgecrest Talk, and tonight we have Mr. Chuck Bolt with us.
Hi there.
Thank you. That was awesome. Thank you so much for that. So we were talking about your love of music and all the songs that you've written, and do you have anything that any advice that you could give to the young or the young at heart or people that may be interested
Well,
in
I'm
picking up an
especially
instrument?
interested in people that want to learn instruments. And it's not that like everybody should be a musician, because it's a special kind of thing, but for the people that do, there's a lot about it that's very solitary and very lonely, because even though you play with other people, to get good at it, you have to spend a lot of time alone with your instrument. So the first thing I tell people is you have to pick it up every day, and you have to be alone with it. You have to cut off the distractions, put away the iPhone, turn off the TV, shut your bedroom door, get away from your kids, your wife, your whatever it is, and be by yourself and do it. And that's probably the hard part. And I think that's what makes it harder for adults to learn instruments, is because they don't have that separate time. And also, kids are happy playing Mary Had a Little Lamb, and when you're an adult, you want to play, Brown Sugar right away.
Yes, I'm sure that's the.
And the other thing is to find
especially the cell phones too these days.
And the other thing is to find people your age and at your skill level that you can play with. Because I have had some teachers, and I'm self-taught quite a bit, but most of the things I've learned from the people I played with that were better than I was. I always say I like to be the worst person in a band if I can.
Was it intimidating for you, or did it give you courage and a want to perfect it and get better?
Every once in a while I'll see some guitar player that makes me want to go burn all my guitars, but mostly I find it to be an inspiration. Mostly playing with someone better than me is a joy, because I'm going to learn. And I would gladly sit at someone's feet, and because I'm trying to get better all the time. I assumed for a long time that after a certain age, you really would plateau out and you wouldn't learn anymore. But because I've been so focused on playing for the last 3 or 4 years, I have improved. And I didn't think that was possible. So now I'm kind of on a tear to see if I can just keep getting better.
Well, absolutely, and practicing does that. The more you play, and even the groups of people you're with, the inspiration, and there's a lot that goes along with that.
Yeah, well, playing in a rock and roll band is an experience.
I like the eye roll.
Well, it's kind of like being married with no sex. I mean, you have all these people you have to deal with on a very intimate level.
Right.
And everybody has different things they want. Even in a 3-man band, you got 3 different egos, and everybody's a performer, so everybody wants to get done what they want to get done, and sometimes those things clash. So you learn after a while.
Like a family, you've got the different personalities,
just like
and
a family. Just
yes.
like a family.
But it somehow works its way out.
And that's funny too, because I don't have a big personal family. I mean, my grandparents moved out here during the Dust Bowl on both sides, and so most of my family is way back in Texas. And my dad's dad was a barber, and my mom's dad was a farmer. He grew cotton, and I think he had a little patch of potatoes too. But
is that why you decided to grow your hair long? To be a rebel? Because your dad
You know, I
was
don't
a
really
barber.
know. I don't really know. When I was in high school, when I was a kid, they always made me shave my head. You know, until I was in the 7th grade. So by the time I said, I don't want to do that anymore. So I think it was just a reaction to always having the redneck bowl cut. And so I think I've only had 6 or 7 haircuts in my life.
Oh, well, you have lovely hair.
Well,
So.
thank you.
I just thought it was funny when you said your your grandfather was a barber. So
Yes,
yeah.
yeah. And my uncle, one of his sons was a barber, and they wanted me to go to barber school. But I don't even like cutting my own hair. I'm sure I wouldn't like cutting somebody else's.
Right. Well, I do that too. I actually cut hair, so.
I know, and you're very good at it.
Well, thank you.
Well, like I said, I was going to cut it a few weeks ago for a camping trip we went on, and I got the scissors in my hand, and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I don't know what it is. It's like Samson.
I was just going to say that. Maybe if you cut it, you won't be able to play music anymore, so
and
don't
that's
cut
a scary
it.
thought, so I don't even want to try.
Right. I don't blame you. I wouldn't even want to try. You're doing really well with everything you got going on.
But I would like to say something about the USO and the open mics because, like I said, from driving a truck, I've played open mics all over the country, and most of them are in dingy little bars on off nights, and there's a lot of drunks around. But this is more like a high school auditorium. People bring their kids. Kids sing. There's a lot of young artists in this town who that has become their outlet to go out and perform. And so even the nights that I don't play, I go down there and check it out because there's always a surprise. There's always someone that you don't expect comes up there and just knock the socks off everybody.
Yes, I've totally enjoyed it.
So come out to the open mics.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is always a surprise,
and everybody that runs the place is a volunteer. Nobody's getting paid. They all do it because they love it. You know, the Historical Society does a lot of other things in this town behind the open mics, besides the open mics, but that's pretty much the way I'm oriented. So
and
anything
they're really supportive too. That's
anything they ever
want,
I always volunteer. I go down there and do sound. We've done benefits for them. You know, it's just a joy. They're just a joy to deal with.
That it is. That it is. So make sure you go. And if you ever feel like you want to go out and try it, do it. Everybody's very supportive. It is.
The audience loves everybody.
It's a great experience.
The audience is the most generous audience in the world because most of them are also performers.
It's every non-flex Friday.
Right. Every other week.
Non-flexes. Right. And then I've talked about the Wednesdays too. They do the movies and
nights,
stuff.
Yes.
But yes, I'm so happy that you came and joined us tonight.
Thank you.
And yeah, I wanted to, because we did a show on the USO building, and I thought it would be really, really fun for everybody to kind of check it out and see Mr. Bolt. So make sure that you tune in to the news and the Ridgecrest Talk Monday through Friday, starting at 5:30 to 6:30, and we will see. Oh yes, actually that would be very nice, Chuck. Would you play a song for us on the way out?
Sure. This is a road song. You won't hear the end of it.
Thank you for having us. Or thank you for being here.